and it's under Commissioners only. Or-
Welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Equalization meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 30, 2024. It's 3:00 p.m. Please silence all cell phones. We have a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act located on the north wall of the county boardroom. The first 15 minutes of each scheduled board meeting is designated for individuals to address the board on topics not otherwise listed on the agenda. Any person requesting to speak to the board on a specific agenda item not otherwise designated as a public hearing is encouraged to notify the clerk by email prior to the scheduled meeting time. All persons wishing to speak either during open public comment or an agenda item must sign in with the county clerk, which I think was done out front. And on the sign-in sheet, that individual will list their name and address and indicate whether or not the matter they wish to speak about is a listed agenda item with a short description of the topic of their comments, and the sign-in sheet will be considered a part of the meeting minutes. So we'll have, I know we've got several today just on agenda items, so we won't need the 15 minutes at the beginning. So we will start with roll call. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Mixon, Warren, and Burmeister, along with our county administrator, Bonnie Moore, and our county clerk, Deb Hotelling. We also have our county assessor, Dan Pittman, and probably Jeff Mikesell, our county treasurer. Thank you, Bill. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is public comments. I don't believe we have anybody for public comments in this particular section, so we will move on to the consent equalization agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda? Or if not, a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Item 6.1 is protest hearing, rejection of homestead exemption, Form 458R for Lot 21, Block 1, Rush Art Edition, Kevin McHugh. And is the property owner, Mr. McHugh, present, would like to be heard? Seeing no one coming forward. This is one of those rejection of homestead exemptions, which I think allow additional time. Would anyone like to make a motion on this one? Okay, I will make a motion that we allow additional time and approve the homestead exemption.
Second.
Motion to approve and extend by Burmeister, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion?
So he filed in time, but he didn't file in time, but he filed by the 20th of July?
He filed out of time. And let's see, I don't know off the top.
Dan, is Dan Pittman? Dan, do you know what the issue is?
July 18 is look like when it was received.
It's like Commissioner Burmeister said, it wasn't filed on time, so they're making a request for you to give them more time.
But don't they have to file before the 20th of
Yeah,
July?
and they missed it.
So
So
they missed it completely.
they missed the filing time, yeah.
Okay.
But we can extend, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a time limit it can be extended?
They're within the statutory timeline for it to be extended. They have that 20-day window after the deadline to request the extension. This is just like the ones that you guys approved last week.
So they're within that additional days.
That's correct.
So then he didn't file within those 20 additional days either, is that the way I understand it?
No,
He filed.
Commissioner Kelly, he did.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions?
So the motion is to grant the application to extend.
The motion I made was to grant the extension of time and grant the application for the
Okay.
exemption.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Item 6.2 is tax correction 17447, Dan Pittman, County Assessor.
I believe there's just one. Did you have any questions on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Equalization is adjourned, and we'll move on to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
Welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 30, 2024. It's 3:06 p.m. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our County Administrator Bonnie Moore and our County Clerk Deb Hotelling. Item number 3 is public comments. I don't believe we have anyone signed up for public comments of the general nature. And seeing no one jumping up and down for that, we'll move on to awards, proclamations, and presentations. Item 4.1, OPPD Introduction of Local Government Affairs Team and Generation Update. Michaela Valentine, Government and Community Relations Manager.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. Michaela Valentine, OPPD. We come today bringing a new person to our staff, Chris Meeks. We wanted to make sure that you met him and learned a little bit about his background. As OPPD continues on our near-term generation journey over the next 5 to 10 years, where we will be doubling our system, we need to have more folks on the local government affairs team because, as you know, a lot of the work that we do is placing assets in local jurisdictions, much like our work together on Turtle Creek Station. And so in order to do that effectively and efficiently, we're adding to our team. So I'd like to introduce you to Chris Meeks.
Thank you, Commissioners. Very pleased to be here today. Again, my name is Chris Meeks. So I joined the local government affairs team with planning and zoning experience. So previously worked as a city planner, county planner for most of my career, going back to even my first job out of college. I was doing some feedlot inspections up in Minnesota, so a little bit of agriculture as well. But yeah, thrilled to be part of the OPPD team and just help us to move the projects forward and work with the cities and the counties within our service territory and beyond as well.
Perfect. Any questions for Chris or for Michaela?
Welcome.
Welcome aboard. Thanks so much for coming to say hello.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We will move on to item number 5, which is Commissioners, Administrators, Announcements, and Comments. We'll start with, I'm going to have the Commissioners come down front here, and we'll ask Bill Conley to come forward. So Bill is unfortunately leaving us shortly, and we just wanted to honor him, tell him how grateful we are for his service. Bill came to us in 2019 with a strong finance background and experience that the county needed, offered his expertise and guidance during a time when the county's budget and level of complexity has definitely grown. He's always been well prepared and presented financial information in an easily understandable way, which we as commissioners appreciate, especially this non-math lawyer. His support was critical when the board lowered the levy to its lowest level since at least 1985. He and his team have provided thoughtful, predictable, and efficient budgeting process for us. and carried the county through 3 different bond rating determinations. Each time Sarpy retained the highest possible bond rating, which only 108 of the 4,200 counties nationwide possess, so really big accomplishment there. He improved the county's financial reporting and transparency by publishing the budget, quarterly financial reports, and annual financial audits online, so it's easily accessible and easy to read. Bill has been an important asset to the county as we've worked through several critical projects, including building a jail, planning and completing large and impactful road projects, and navigating the sewer agency. His ability to think outside the box, problem solve, and weigh financial impacts and details is unmatched. He's been really a great asset for us. Bill's retirement from Sarpy marks the end of a long career with many accomplishments at North Star Foundation, the University of Nebraska at Omaha, the Omaha World Herald, and Deloitte. We're pleased to have had him for the last 5 years with us, for the last 5 years of his career, and we wish Bill and his wife Sylvia and their family all the very best. Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate it. Commissioners want to gather around and get a picture under our esteemed Sarpy County Wayne. Commissioner Kelly, did you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I do. 2019, is that when Bill got here? 2019? I just remember when we were getting ready to hire a CFO, I was the chairman and I was looking at all the candidates, and it was very clear that there was one that, you know, they say the cream rises to the top, a guy that we just had to have. But he wasn't making a real quick decision, so I picked up the phone and called him and kind of just pleaded with him that if he came to the county, he would enjoy it, number one, and number two, he would make us better. And I think I can say after 5 years or 6 years almost that both of those statements are true. He made a tremendous difference. He kept particularly this board on track every day. And the thing I think I appreciated about him most is you never had to guess where Bill stood. You always knew, but I like that. You know, I think a leader appreciates people that gives them the straight answers, not the answers they want to hear. And a lot of times he gave us answers we didn't want to particularly hear, but they were the right answers. So, Bill, I kind of envy you. I wish I was kind of following in your footsteps into retirement, but I know you're going to enjoy it, and you've certainly earned it, and best of luck.
Commissioner Kluge?
I would echo Commissioner Kelly's comments, Bill. It's been a pleasure working with you. We're very, very blessed to have your skill set brought into the county and to guide us the last 5 years. A lot of exciting things going on, and you were always a rock of stability. You always gave very straightforward and direct answers in a very timely manner, and it made our jobs a lot easier. Commissioner Kelly said we didn't always necessarily want to hear what you had to say, but you spoke in reality every single time. There were no politics. It was just very straightforward, very direct. It's what we needed to be able to do our jobs effectively. So, again, we're very blessed to have you. Thank you for your service over the last 5 years, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy your retirement.
Commissioner Warren?
Just, again, thanks, Bill. I always appreciated it because I'm not a math guy. I can show you college scores to prove that. But your comment of every budget tells a story. And instead of given us numbers and details, you would tell us the story of the material you presented. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Mixon?
Yes, Bill, I enjoyed working with you. I'm glad you listened to this old guy up here sometimes on some of my comments, but you always took them to heart, and I really appreciated that. And I appreciate all the work that you've done and putting together everything, because having a strong financial department and having strong financial numbers and a balance sheet for the county is so important. When Angie was making the comment about only 108 out of 40-some hundred counties, I was thinking about California, and I bet you would really be a superstar in California, because that would be the only county. That would be the only county that would have any kind of financial stability. So it's very much appreciated, very much. And again, thank you. I've learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate all your hard work.
And then I'll go to Bonnie, and then I'd like to invite Bill to make any comments he would like to make.
Yep, just briefly, I'll echo with the comments of the board, but also just say, Bill, I just so appreciate your efforts to modernize the department, move the county forward. And what I've been really impressed by lately is how you've mentored our new CFO, Dan, and all the things that you're bringing him into and things that he's learning about. So thank you for your service. I enjoyed working with you.
First of all, I'm glad I wore a tie today, I think. But thanks for the comments. I just wanted to share a couple thoughts that I had. On the story, I actually had another job offer that I was about to take. Actually, I did accept another job offer, and I got the offer here. And I think virtually all of the board members put on a full court press. Mm-hmm. I know you did, David, and others, and I'm glad you did. That I have enjoyed the 5.5 years that I've been here, because in particular, I didn't want to come and just be a caretaker. I wanted to be a part of an organization that was going to be doing things. And so I measure things by numbers. So, a couple numbers that I've found, I could talk about, and I try to track, what have we done differently or better? And I followed a really outstanding person in Brian Hansen. And I think in some ways, I'm not nearly Brian Hansen, and in other ways I've maybe added a little value. I've got the baton now, and I'm about to hand it off to Dan, but I think we've made improvements in some things. But over the 5.5 years, when you talk about numbers, we did about $280 million in capital projects, which is, really unheard of for this county in a 5-year period. That includes $80 million for the new correctional center and $140, I think, in roads or more. So, or more than that even for roads. So a lot of activity, and that's fun. From my standpoint, I was always looking to the board and to the leadership to go, what do you want to do? Let's go do it. I'll find the money. We'll figure out how to fund it and make it make sense. And so I felt like that was my job. And so it's been fun to work with this board, this leadership team. I have enjoyed it. We've also done, in terms of numbers, we did $171 million in bond issues over the last 5 years in 4 different issues, some refis and some new money, so to fund all that growth. But as I was mentioning to David earlier, I think the county, at the end of my term is as strong or stronger financially. I think probably stronger because we have better policies in terms of budgetary reserves than we did 5 years ago. So I'm pleased about that. I think the future looks bright for the county, and it's really been a pleasure to work here. So thank you for the comments. Thanks for the chance to work here.
Thanks so much, Bill. Okay.
About one more comment. The Sarpy County Fair starts this week, I believe. Am I correct?
That's right.
Mr. Kelly's always right on top of that one.
I'm out there chasing the pigs. You know? I don't know. You brought it up, but and Angie and I and Jim I know have all been out there, and I'm sure everybody else has too. But it really is a great event. It's probably one of the funnest things that happens in Sarpy County every year. You know, for 4 or 5 days. So if you haven't made plans, maybe wait till, Thursday when things cool down a little bit, but go on down there and have a great time and really look at the roots of what, Sarpy County once was. Our agricultural roots will be on full display, and it'll make you proud just to see it in action. So have fun.
Perfect. Next is the consent commissioners agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda, or if not, a motion to approve?
Motion to approve is published.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Item 7.1 is Resolution 2024-210, 2023 National Electrical Code as temporarily amended effective August 1, 2024. Sarpy County currently operates under the 2017 National Electrical Code, previously approved by Resolution 2017-440. Don Simon, Planning Director.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairperson Burmeister, members of the board. What we have before you is the update of the National Electric Code from 2017 to 2023. The state requires that any jurisdiction or county that has electrical inspectors need to follow the National Electric Code when they adopt it. This is the current version of the National Electric Code 2023, so we are right in line with everyone else in the nation. There are amendments to this, and the amendments are all savings to the builder and the consumer. It's about $1,500 alone with the National Electric Code. And you can thank the builders and their lobbyists for doing that, and they got that through. And most of these amendments pertain to 1- and 2-family dwellings, as well as townhomes. Any questions?
Questions for Don?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8.1 is public hearing and recommendation to Liquor Control Commission, Corn Coast Brewing LLC, application for a Class C beer, wine, spirits on and off sale liquor license for business at 10717 Virginia Plaza, Suite 101, La Vista, Nebraska 68128. Daniel, is it Walkemeyer? President. And if you want to come forward and come to the podium, and if you'll state your name and spell your last name for us, just so we have it in the record, that'd be great.
My name is Daniel Walkemeyer. Last name is spelled W-A-L-K-E-M-E-Y-E-R.
Perfect. And did you want to tell us anything about the application?
Nothing more than we need a liquor license to do business here over in the Omaha Metro, so.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant, Mr. Walkemeyer?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by, oh, it's a public hearing.
This is a public.
Thank you.
Not
It's a
now.
public hearing. Is anyone present that wants to be heard on this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain Commissioner
make a motion.
Klug's motion to approve. And who seconded? Commissioner Warren seconded. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Thanks for coming out, Mr. Walkemeyer. Item 8.2 is Resolution 2024-214, reallocate remaining American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds in the amount of $962,559 to Phase 6 ARPA commitments. Bill Conley, CFO.
since my mind is a little bit scattered, I do want to add one more comment. And I used to work at a newspaper, and we always used to say, don't bury the lead, and I forgot probably the most important thing I wanted to say, and that was, as much as I loved working with the board and administration, I absolutely did love working with Michaela Gansimer and Jenny Rock and the physical team, and they're just really a joy to work with. They're a great team. They don't get enough credit, and this county's lucky to have them, so it's been really a pleasure, so thank you, you too. So now the agenda item, the ARPA reallocation, I'm just going to provide a brief background. As background on ARPA, the Sarpy County received $36.3 million in American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds from the federal government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The county, from the start of this, was very transparent. We tried to apply best practices in our approach to how we handled and used those ARPA funds. We formed an ARPA task force who has met, reviewed, and recommended all throughout the process what those funds are used for. The recommendations come to this board. We adopted the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association guiding principles on ARPA. We sought public requests for uses of the ARPA money. We ensured compliance with the U.S. Treasury reporting and rules on ARPA funds, and kudos to Jenny Rock for all of her work on the reporting. We obtained Board of Commissioner approval all throughout for the first 5 phases. Today we're talking about the Phase 6 allocations. And we provided immediate help to residents in the county. And then finally, we funded vital and very important infrastructure and projects within the county. So one of the things I feel really good about is that we, the money that we got for the ARPA funds, we have done really good things with it. And so the funding obligation deadline, the date at which we have to decide what we're going to do with ARPA funds, is at the end of this calendar year. Most organizations, including the physical team's approach to this, is let's try to spend it by the end of this year so that there's no risk of having to return the money and that we use it effectively. So what we're doing today is we are reallocating some of the previous commitments to other projects. Funds that are being reduced are funds that were set aside for the museum project, the neighborhood pantry facility project, the Sands Trailer Court flood damage repair, and some money that we had put in or committed for human services funding for rent assistance. We've moved that to our general budget. The funding for the neighborhood pantry and the Sarpy County Museum have also been moved to other county funding sources. So it's not that we're backing away from those commitments. We're just going to fund those through other funding sources because the timing of all of those projects is uncertain. We don't want to get into a situation where we have committed, we pass the December 31st deadline, and then we decide we don't want to spend that money for some reason, and then we would have to return the money to the federal government. So we are proposing that projects be increased, and we use $618,000 of the money for Werner Park and $344,000 for funding, partially funding the new vehicle list that is included in the 2024 budget requests. So that's kind of a background and overview. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Bill?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 9.1 is preliminary levy allocation request from Fire Districts and Agricultural Society. Amber Hotaling, Clerk Register of Deeds Chief Deputy.
Good afternoon. We have received the preliminary budget request as presented by the fire districts and the Sarpy County Ag Society. This is just a discussion item and doesn't require approval. We will do that at the August 27th board meeting. Today, representing, we have Millard, Papillion, and Gretna. So I think we'll start with Gretna first. And for Gretna, we got Jim Lang, the board attorney, J.R. Christensen, the suburban board VP, and Rod Beathy, the fire chief. Is that zoomed in far enough for you guys? Okay. Gretna, would you like to come up?
Chairman Buemeister, members of the Sarpy County Board, my name is Jim Lang. I'm the attorney for the Gretna Fire District. With me today is Rod Beathy, our fire chief, and J.R. Christensen, our vice president on our board. If you have any questions concerning our application today, just let us know, and we'd be happy to address those. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Let's see. Last year, we went up from 4 cents to 14.5 cents. And I think that was in anticipation of starting a professional fire department, which would include the staffing.
Correct.
But the staffing hasn't happened yet, has it?
We have three individuals on paid personnel, and our fire chief, assistant fire chief, and an assistant in the fire department. At the present time, our fire chief and assistant fire chief are receiving applications, and they're going through the process of vetting those applications and going through the testing process. So we anticipate, and Rod's here today, we're in the hiring process starting right now. We anticipate starting to go through the testing process, Commissioner Kelly here very shortly, and hiring the process here probably August, September of this year.
So, well, I guess the real question I have is, that's great, but will that, when the staff comes on board, are we going to see a dramatic change in the levy request moving forward?
No. I think you're going to, we've budgeted such that this budget's going to be able to fund our paid personnel as we go forward this year and in the future.
That's what I was wondering about.
But we're not going to be back here asking for a levy increase in the future for that. We've looked at this, and I think we've budgeted accordingly. Okay. And the county was very good in permitting us. As you recall, last year we went to a suburban fire district, and that assisted us in raising additional funds for our paid personnel, and we appreciate that.
So you're at, is it 13? Is that what I'm saying? 13.8? 13.8 cents?
Right, we're at 14.
14.
Correct. Current tax levy is 14.2592, and we anticipate, I guess, as I read this, a 2% decrease in our levy. Because of our valuation growth, because of actual growth in the district, we are receiving more dollars, but our levy is going to be reduced slightly.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Any questions, we have to answer those.
Other questions for Mr. Lang? I don't think so.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Next, we have Kevin Edwards for Papillion and Millard.
My name's Kevin Edwards. It's E-D-W-A-R-D-S. And I'm the fire chief for the Millard Fire District and the administrator for the Papillion Fire District. And with me today also is Fire Chief Rob Gotch of the Papillion Fire Department. He wanted to witness how we get our tax dollars. Both districts are maintaining the same levy as they had last year. The tax requests are up for the Papillion Fire District. It is mainly because our portion of the mutual finance organization that funds the fire department with the city of Papillion and the city of La Vista went up 1% due to growth in our district and no annexations by the cities. And they had very limited growth, although they had did some revaluation. And then the other portion of it is we're putting away an additional $170-some thousand for capital equipment purchases that we are not borrowing money for. We try to put away every year between the three of us. This year we're putting away $551,000 for additional purchases, and one of those purchases is the potential of land for a 5th fire station that we're looking at in the neighborhood around 72nd and Capehart because of the growth that's going on in that area in the call load. Now for the Millard Fire District, our main expense increase is the cost of our contract with the city of Omaha. As you remember, we lowered that levy from 13.6 to 10.8, and it's based on our total valuation. Our total valuation went up considerably. I'd like to address that with the city at some point to allow for just growth in our district, the real growth, not the revaluation. And the efforts that are being taken at the state legislature may lend itself to requiring us to renegotiate our contract with the city and take that into account. Our other portion of the increase is $250,000 for capital improvements that are being made to Station 65 at 142nd and Harrison. They're remodeling it and adding separate sleeping quarters for the firefighters and improving the restroom facilities and those sorts of things. And they we had windows that were leaking, and they've replaced all those windows. That's our portion. The project was for $499,000, and that's our portion because we own the building 50-50 with the city of Omaha. And then we also are putting in another $95,250 towards a body armor program that the city of Omaha Fire Department has adopted in response to mass shootings and domestic violence situations, where every individual on the fire department that's seated in the fire department will have a bulletproof vest, and our portion is buying all of the additional EMS equipment that they'll carry with them in that vest. That vest is made for firefighters and EMTs, and we bought all of the additional equipment for that. They purchased the vest and the body armor. And that's really all I've got. Any questions?
Questions for Kevin?
Thank you.
Good. Thanks so much for coming out. Is that everybody, Amber?
I don't believe there's anybody else here. Is Springfield or Sarpy County Ag Society, anybody here? So I guess that's it. Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I have a question. And maybe it's just my age and my memory, but I thought we were trying to push everybody down to around 15 cents. But somehow last year, the Bellevue Rural Fire District jumped up 5 cents in levy authority. And I don't remember voting for that, but I went back and looked at the record and it said I did. So do you know how that all went down last year? Because I remember we had discussions with the city and the rural fire department.
Well, I think that's just the preliminary from last year. They're preliminary. I don't think that's what was voted on. So.
Well, if I'm reading this right, for the Eastern Sarpy, it went up 21.8% last year.
Is that what was voted?
Don, we may have to check that for you.
Yeah, I mean, last year, there was a request at the preliminary from Eastern Sarpy for the 20.42, and then I think there was a conversation between them and Administrator Hoynes to reduce that to 16.338, I think it was, and that's what was the final request and voted on.
Can you put the slide back up there, Amber? The one that has their levy on it, so that we can see it. It's just hard to see these little.
So it's a little confusing because it says current tax levy on that, on that line item.
Oh, you know, it may not, I'm wondering if maybe it didn't get updated from the actual to the preliminary for the current year.
So if you look at 2019, this is kind of, actually it started before that. It probably started in 2016. But every fire district was down around 14 or 15 cents, except for the Eastern Sarpy. They were up in that 18 to 19 cent range. And so we did a resolution that said, okay, you've got 2 years to get down to, in line with the rest of the fire districts and their fire chiefs. I can't remember his name. Angie, do you remember?
Larry Chandler.
Yeah, Larry came in and said, well, it's a function of valuation and annexation and all that. But nevertheless, the board said, no, you got to get down to 15, It's the right thing to do for the taxpayers, and you're going to have to work it out with Bellevue to make the finances work. And so you can see in 2018, they were at 18.5. In 2020, they were at 18.5. And then we started on a trajectory down. In 2021, they went to 17. In 2022, 16.8. And then all of a sudden last year, it jumped up 5%, which is, it's a little bit of a paradox because I don't know how that happened. I just don't know. And I looked at the record and said I voted for it, but I don't remember voting for that. And I'm just bringing it up because I'm wondering what the rest of the board recalls, because first of all, our constitutional tax levy is 50 cents. That's all we got. And if we're sitting at 28.5 as a county and these guys want over 20 cents, we're not going to have the ability to raise funds in a catastrophe if we needed to, because we're going to be up against our constitutional limit. And I've been saying this for 6 years to the Eastern or Bellevue Rural Fire District, Eastern Sarpy. And I get it. They got valuation issues and they got annexation, but we can't allow them to be that high. We just can't. So I was hoping Larry was going to be here. I called Chairwoman Burmeister yesterday and said, have you talked to Larry about this? Because, bad news doesn't get better with age, but we're definitely not going to sit. Well, we may if the board says we will, but I'm not going to vote for it because it really backs the county board into a place we don't want to be if we ever had to raise funds through a tax increase. And trust me when I say this, I have no plans to do that now or in the future, but, I don't have a crystal ball. And I can't predict the future. There may be something that comes up catastrophically or economically that might require that, but approving a levy at almost, what is it? It's almost 21 cents. That would make absolutely no sense for this county board to authorize that. So I think the word we need to get back to Mr. Chandler is not on my watch, and I'm going to push back real hard on that.
And I think, Commissioner Kelly, I think what the clerk's office was saying is that there's maybe an error on the spreadsheet. So it sounds like last year what we approved was 0.16 what?
38.
1.1638.
Yes.
So
this
it's currently set at 0.1638. They're asking for 20, 0.2079.
Okay, well then my heart is beating again.
I was going to say, slow down.
And I apologize to the Eastern Rural Fire District for thinking that something nefarious was going on, because I don't remember approving that. And but when you sent the corrections out, and it was still there, that's when I called Commissioner Burma, and I
Yes.
called Commissioner Warren.
So
I
maybe
said,
we can
"What's
get it
going on?"
corrected
Yeah,
for
we
next
will.
week. when-
We'll go back and look at the spreadsheet. So
Perfect.
we were just working off an SOP this year, and
So-
we didn't have anybody here to ask.
Can you tell me
guidance,
what their ask is?
That is their ask,
Their ask for
right?
20 is the correct amount. The
Say it
20
again?
The ask for this year is the correct amount, the 20.2079 is correct. It's the last year amount that was shown incorrectly.
Okay, so last year they were at .168, and this year their ask is to go, well, that's still not, then my heart's still beating fast.
Last year's .1638.
38, yeah, their initial
And their
request.
ask is .2079.
22% increase.
Okay.
And again, please, this is our very first year for doing this. We've lost the staff that used to do this, so these two have been working diligently and very hard to try and do an SOP and get this right. So we'll get better next year, I promise.
We'll work through it. These things
I
happen.
think, and last year, I think the same thing happened, but we ended up with the lower amount because they just wanted to present, here's how it looks, but then they ended up bonding, or they might have had cash last year that they used, but they can bond the difference and take this thing back to the 15. And I believe it's at the 16.3 because the bond piece is allowed as well, but, and I don't know if that counts against, but they were under last year, and I think this year they're probably gonna have to do the same thing. They're gonna have to bond the difference instead of putting it in, because they know they need to be under, at the 15 or lower.
So, and I don't want to belabor this, but when I went back and looked at the minutes, it actually had this number in there from last year. So the mistake wasn't yours necessarily. It was done last year. It was put in there, and that's why I was kind of bewildered going, I don't think so.
That was their preliminary request originally
Okay.
last year.
Yeah, it should have had a revised amount
I
of the
remember that.
.1638, yep, on the final budgets that were request.
It's the cause of my high blood pressure every August. But thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 9.2 is fiscal year 2024 quarter 4 financial dashboard report. Bill Conley, CFO.
It's me again. I want to follow up on the last item briefly. Really good question. And the levy limits that we have, subject to what's going on in Lincoln right now, we have two levy limits. They're both 50 cents. One is constitutional, one is called statutory. And the statutory is the one I'm going to focus on. And credit to Dan, who was already digging on this before the board meeting today. So he brought in some background information. But the statutory 50-cent levy limit for the county includes our general levy and the general fund levy for the highest fire district. So last year, they were just a little over 15 cents, 0.15. So the instruction that we've given to the volunteer fire districts or the fire districts is to keep it at 15 cents on a general fund. So you're absolutely right. What they're asking for is way out of bounds, and what it does is it eats into our capacity. Not that we plan to raise our levy, but we want to preserve our capacity. So it's a great point. We should get them to stay to the 15 cents. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I have some background on that I can share with the board at some other point, or I can share it electronically. So, in what is the final agenda item that I'm going to be presenting to you on today, and you think you're tired of hearing from me, I'm tired of listening to me as well. No, it's this is something we do every quarter. We started, one of the things I'm proud of is that we've improved I think the financial governance of the county, forming an audit committee and internal audit function, and we also do quarterly financials the first point I would make about the quarterly financials, and I was going to pull them up if I can. I don't know. There we go. We have 5 different quarterly reports, I believe, that we put out on our website, on sarpy.gov. So they're already out there. This is one of them. I'm just going to touch on a few things on the dashboard, but I think it's good government that we talk about financial numbers on at least a quarterly basis in these meetings. So our fiscal year ended June 30th. So today I'm going to just highlight a few of the, let's see if I can get this centered now. Few of the financial results from the year that just ended. So you can see here our total revenue for the county was a little over $170 million. That was 109% or almost 10% higher than our budget. You can see the components there. We were up very strong in local revenue. Local revenues were $64 million. They were up $20 million over our budget. There are a couple reasons. This will translate to how we compared to last year. And they're listed, a few things are listed in the highlights, but one was just an accounting issue. As you know, we now have a self-funded health insurance plan. That's called an internal service fund. It's outside of the general fund. It's one of our new funds. Well, we have to transfer money to that fund, and then we operate that like a health insurance company, and then we pay bills out of that fund. That results in 2 sets of revenues and 2 sets of expenses, because we're transferring money, and then which is an expense, and then we're expending it to Blue Cross and other organizations. So that represented about $7.6 million of the increase over last year, or over budget, because we didn't start the year knowing we were going to do a self-funded health insurance plan. On the revenue side. And the same goes on the expense side. So you'll be hearing the same story. On local revenue also, treasurer local revenue. I've said this throughout each of the quarterly updates this year. Our treasurer revenue was $5.4 million higher than budget. 4.3 million of that was because of interest income. So we've had more cash, but we're investing in it and getting more interest income. Intergovernmental payments were almost 7 million last year, and 3 million higher than we had planned. These are payments from other organizations for road project participation. So we do a road project where a developer developers may share in a piece of that project. That may not happen for several years down the road. This is really a testament and a credit to Scott Bovick, who I think has all of this in his brain, and he knows exactly all the outstanding arrangements that we have, and that we get the funds collected. And finally, inheritance tax fund revenues were $4.3 million for the year, which was about $1.8 million higher than we had budgeted. Federal revenues were higher due to the timing of receiving a grant. State revenues were higher due to probation and homestead exemption. And property tax revenue, we received 93% of our budgeted property tax. That's really a timing issue, and it's almost always about 93% that comes in during the fiscal year. On the expense side, we had total expenses of $184 million. That was $94 million below budget. So you think, wow, what happened? Well, included in our budget is a variety of budgetary reserves and other expenditures that we know we're not going to spend during the current year, but we're going to spend them at some point in the future. We have to have a balanced budget, so revenues and expenses have to agree. Personal services is higher than budget by 4%. This also is due to the double counting of the health insurance dollars that I mentioned earlier. We're moving costs from the general fund to the health insurance internal service fund and then spending them again. So we've double counted some of those. So we will, from a budget standpoint, we will be budgeting correctly for that, or fully for that, in the upcoming year. All other expense categories were at or below budget. Personnel costs, I just thought of note. The employment numbers, the numbers I got from HR were identical in terms of the number of FTE year over year. In the bonds, in the annual debt service, I would just point out that the county ended the year with $158.5 million of bond indebtedness. We have an annual debt service of about $13 million. It's always good to point out that our average cost of capital, is listed in the upper right, is about 2.5%, is what we're paying in terms of interest on the outstanding debt that we have as a county, which is very good. And as mentioned earlier, we still are maintaining a AAA bond credit rating, which is the highest that we can get. Cash balances at the end of 2024 are shown here. We ended the year with $109 million in cash. It was a decrease of $13 million from a year ago. The primary reason for the decrease is due to spending of bond construction proceeds. We had issued some bonds for highway projects. We spent those down. We also spent down the ARPA funds by, I believe, about $7 million during the year. So that's part of the reason there. The next page, and the last comment I will make, is that we also, because that whole page is compared pretty much to budget, the next page compares our revenues and expenditures to the prior year. And so a lot of the stories are pretty similar, so I won't go back through them, but I would invite you to look at that. And if you ever have any questions on the financial numbers, don't hesitate to reach out and to get a hold of Dan Talakas. And then the last thing I'd say is we're just starting, all these numbers are really on a cash basis. We're starting the work now on the annual audit for the county, the financial audit, which is a 6-month process. So we'll hope to conclude that by the end of, hopefully around the end of the calendar year or so. Any questions?
One question. How is our, you mentioned how's the cash working out in regards to our self-funded health program? About projection?
Good. I didn't list it out there, but it's, I don't know if I have the cash balance offhand. I looked to my team to see if anybody, 2.1 million at the end of the year. So we track it, I'm tracking it, and our team is tracking the health insurance. How are we doing under the self-insured? We were hoping to, at the end of the year, and we were told maybe we would save $500,000 to $1 million. I think it's going to be on the lower end of that.
Okay.
And maybe even lower than the lower end of that. Right now we have $2 million, and we've budgeted for an increase in the budget year for January 1 going forward. So we're doing okay right now.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Bill? All right, thanks so much, Bill.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Item number 10.1 is an executive session.
For the protection of the public interest, I move that we go into executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Klug to go into executive session for pending litigation, second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
358.
Okay, go ahead.
It is now 4:28 PM. At 3:58, we went into executive session where our discussion was restricted to a legal matter pending litigation. I need a motion that we return to regular session.
Motion?
Second.
Motion to return to regular session by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, I'm sorry, I haven't sent for votes, excuse me. My head was somewhere else for right now. Okay, it's gone.
Don doesn't have a button.
Hold on, Don, what are you, a first or a second?
I'm a yes.
He's a moving.
Motion, then
He's a
I
mover.
vote yes.
I was a second.
Don was a first?
Yep.
Okay, let's just get him going here. Don,
We all say yes.
Dave, okay. Please vote. I'll vote for you. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Thank you. John?
All right.